Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is about 9:58, just about 10 o'clock here on a Tuesday. Hope everyone's doing good. So, yeah, we had a pretty nice little snowstorm on Sunday, I should say. So it was pretty cool. Watched a shit ton of movies. And then yesterday I went back to work. This week is a short week because of Martin Luther King weekend, so I have Monday off, and then also have Friday off because there's a teacher conference. So pretty nice, pretty chill few weeks of work. But again, I've been watching a shit ton of movies. Surprise, surprise. I went to Bull Moose the week before last, and great. I got some killer movies. The one that I was really seeking out, usually when I go shopping and go out to buy movies, I don't usually go there necessarily with a plan. Occasionally I do. There's certain movies that I want to get, but usually I like to go in pretty cold and just try to. Part of For me, the magic is just searching through the bins and discovering movies. But every now and then I do go in with like a particular movie or maybe a particular album that I'm going to look for. But other than that, I try to keep it open. The last trip I had really wanted to buy the latest Predator installment, and that is Prey. So they had it on Blu-ray, and I picked it up. I really, really love that movie, and it was super exciting. So I bought that, and I bought a bunch of other movies. I did a review on Prey. I actually did like 2 or 3 different videos on it. So very, very cool. And but again, I and the rest of the movies I bought, I had never seen before. Super awesome. Tombs of the Blind Dead was just an amazing film. That was one that I had never seen before. I did a review for that movie yesterday, and I was really, really, really impressed with that movie. Super awesome. So check that video out if you get a chance. I am looking forward to watching that movie again. I really love that movie. I had never seen it. Old school, 70, from 72. So awesome. And today's show is on another movie that is one I'd never seen before. I had never even heard about before, and that is The Night Train Murders. I got this on Blu-ray. Never seen it before. I came across it. I've been lately in my travels to buy music. I still go to Goodwill in Rockland. That's like the best local Goodwill, I think, as far as movies go and music. I've gotten a shit ton of movies there. I've gotten some really good albums there too on CD. Um, but when I go to Blue Moose, they the one I've been going to now is the one in Bangor. I find that they just have a better selection, and they had a really good selection. So this was a brand new purchase that I bought. The only thing that I went by really on this was that this film is kind of compared to my favorite Wes Craven film, and that is Last House on the Left. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. You kind of got me there. And the other thing, probably the biggest selling point for me to buy this was that it's on one of my favorite labels, and that is Blue Underground. Blue Underground is one of my favorite boutique labels. They specialize in all things exploitation, killer selections of movies. And Blue Underground, of course, is run by one of my favorite figures and one of my favorite directors in the world of exploitation, and that is William Luswig, or Bill Luswig. He is responsible for so many great films. My favorite, he directed my favorite grindhouse slasher movie of all time, and that is Maniac. That movie is just such a masterpiece. He's done so many other great films too. So most notably, or most well known for the Maniac Cop series, but awesome movies. I got to see Maniac Cop in the theater last year, and that was super badass. I love that movie to death. Starring Bruce Campbell. So it's one of those things when if I see the Blue Underground label on one of these packages, I'm like, yep, it's probably going to be pretty good. I had never seen it before, and this movie came out in 1975. Night Train Murders came out in 1975. It was directed by Aldo Lado, who is I believe, an Italian director. Again, I never heard of his films. Never heard of him. He's done quite a few movies. Night Train Murders, of course, which came out in 75. Short Night of the Glass Dolls in 71. Who Saw Her Die in 72. The Humanoid in 79. Sahara Heat in 87. The Cousin in 74. But again, I never heard of this guy, Aldo Lado. I never heard of any of his work before. And this movie came out again, like I said, in '75. This movie is so fucking brutal. I don't know how else to describe it. Um, and this movie is just such a an exploration of violence. Like it's brutal. This movie is one of the most sleazy, or one of the most shocking, and one of the most violent movies I've seen in recent time. And again, I always say it, and I can't really ever say it enough. When I think of when this film came out, 75, this came out the year I was born. And to see how the elements of violence and brutality that make up this movie, and that kind of deep, nasty, exploration of that dark side of human nature, to think that this came out in 75, like it's mind-boggling. Like, even so, again, even by today's standards of movies that come out now in 2024, this movie in some ways, and in some ways, or in many ways, and also on many levels, goes further, goes deeper, explores those hidden taboos, or is just plain, just more shocking than a lot of things that I see now. And it's insane. It's bonkers when you think that this movie came out when it did. And aside from the really brutal violence, and of course, it's I could see it. I could see it being called, very much. It's very much influenced by Wes Craven's Last House on the Left, but it's got its own different thing. It's got a European kind of flair. It's an Italian film. It has this Euro kind of vibe. Obviously, it is a little bit of a different thing. I think the first half of this movie is almost like a character study. Like, there isn't anything that is particularly violent or dark that happened more or less in the first act of this film. When I put this in last night, and I had never seen it before. I watched it last night for the first time. When I put this in, I was kind of expecting this movie to be pretty brutal and kind of gut wrenching in some ways, and possibly rapey. I am not, well, you know, certain things in certain films get under my skin a little bit, where it makes me cringe, or where it's generally hard for me to watch, and that's usually in, scenes of where there's rape. I I don't take to that very easily, and I get very cringy and uneasy whenever that happens. Um, if I feel that when I watch especially an exploitation movie, if I watch an exploitation movie and I see or feel that it is a real and more or less an integral part to the film, and a lot of the times in exploitation movies, like at the end of the day, that this movie is a revenge movie, I think, and other movies that I've seen in the exploitation world that do show, the pretty brutal rape scenes. Again, like I said, that pushes my envelope a little much. And but if I feel that kind of a thing is more or less integral to the story, or like the motivations for the characters, or the to the arc of the story, and when I've seen it in movies, a lot of the times it is leading to some kind of, it's about a tale of revenge. So when I see that it does have some kind of integral part to the story, more or less, it doesn't bother me as much, because you kind of get behind the Avenger quicker. So it's kind of that mixed thing. Sometimes that is not the case, and it's just hard to watch. I have a very high threshold for violence and sleazy things that you will see in exploitation movies. But it's a different thing when I think when it's obviously a key factor to the story. And as brutal as this movie is, and it's pretty fucked up to say the least, those graphic scenes are really, really, really integral to the story. Really, especially this movie. Like, it really, you really get behind and get invested in, like, the third act, the ending of this film. And again, it's beautifully shot, and it takes, it's this, the story itself is basically centered on this group of these maniacs that are on this train, and they basically kidnap or hold hostage these two girls, and and they just do all kinds of heinous and disgusting acts to these women. And then eventually there is this tale of revenge that emerges from the movie, from the story. And this movie is ultra low budget. It's super sleazy. I mean, it's so incredibly sleazy, super grimy, but at the same time, it's incredibly shot, beautifully shot. The cinematography in this movie is just really, really awesome. It's beautiful too. There's some scenes of where the train is traveling. There are these long shots of kind of these, wilderness vistas that you see, and it's gorgeous. It's really beautiful, beautifully shot. And like I said, going into this film, watching this film, especially the beginning, and then there are scenes throughout the movie. If it wasn't for, what this movie is about, and it, where you're not seeing this incredibly shocking violence, um, you would almost feel, and I did feel this way, that you're watching a really kind of well done, high end foreign film. And I mean, obviously, it is a foreign movie, but you kind of get this feeling that, as sensitive of a subject that this film, uh, this really incredibly sensitive subject that this film does tackle and deal with, and what it does show, and it does go there, it's got this high level of well crafted direction behind it. It's really well done as a movie. I was really impressed, like just looking at it from, you know, from from a technical standpoint, or just how it's shot. It's really beautifully shot, and but this movie is, again, it's one of the most disturbing movies I've seen in recent time. And I had never seen this movie before, never even heard about it. I picked it up on a total whim. It was only $10 on Blu-ray. The transfer of this movie on Blu-ray is incredible. The picture, the sound, the pixelation, the audio, The music, everything is just pretty spectacular. It looks pristine. Um, there's a really great interview on here. It's only about 15 minutes, but there's so much information and it's very cool. There's a really great interview with Aldo Laudo, the director of this film. And, you know, that's what, I'm a big fan of is like when it comes to special features on for a lot of these movies, I love when there's just like a real candid interview with that particular director or the actors or the people that were involved directly in that particular film. I have a bunch of, for example, uh, I have a lot of Lucio Fulci movies on Blu-ray, who is my favorite Italian director, and I love that there's a few of the discs that I own or that I have. There are a bunch of interviews with Lucio Fulci where he's just like sitting on a couch and just talking off the cuff. It's not edited. It's not like any about anything in particular. He's kind of just talking and kind of ranting, and it's like the stream of consciousness. But it's so awesome and informative because you see like kind of what his motivation is. You kind of get a sense of like kind of how he is as a person, and then you kind of get a sense of like how he is as a director. You get a good look at it, but it's like this kind of unfiltered look at a really great director, and I love that's when I buy a movie. That's one of the cool things that I look for, especially if it's the actual filmmaker. A lot of these great exploitation movies have lots of commentary tracks and lots of really great documentaries. My favorite guy is Stephen Brower. He is a British um, writer, and he has written many books about the world of exploitation, and he's just fantastic. And he is involved with a lot of these releases. Well, he'll do a talk, or he'll be involved with a documentary about a particular movie or director. But it's that same kind of thing. It's like you're getting a lot of cool information, and the interview on here is pretty fantastic with Aldo Laudo. He's very open about his whole career, and again, I have never heard of him before. I've never seen any of his movies, so again, that's one of those things that I can, in my future adventures to Bull Moose, I can now be on the lookout for any of his other films, because this movie, as brutal as this movie is, and as unrelenting as this movie is, it's awesome. Like, it's really really good. I was really impressed. So two movies that I've seen this week that I've never seen before: Tombs. Um, Tombs of the Blind Dead, and then Night Train Murders. Two movies I've never seen that I was just blown away by. Super cool. I highly recommend this if you're into exploitation movies. But be forewarned, this movie is not for the faint at heart. It is brutal as all hell, but it is an awesome movie. I highly recommend it. So thanks again for your support, and we will see you next time. Peace.